SatAm Season 3, Issue 2. We see someone in a black cloak who had sensed all that power coming from a place spewing out pollution, and he, or she, wants to know what they know. Then we cut to Knothole and start wasting time with the heroes angsting because they're not sure if they can beat Naugus. Antoine makes a really stupid mistake with English because horrible is literally a word in French that means the same thing, and it's pronounced almost the same. And he even said terrible in the show, that's similar to horrible. And Chuck says that since he was the only drone, and not Robian for some reason, who was unaccounted for after Doomsday was destroyed, he'd figure out he was a spy immediately. Yeah, that's the reason, and not the fact that you were already outed as a spy in Spy Hog. Also, did Doomsday never get the chance to send hundreds of pods out there? Because I remember Sonic in the show saying, but there's already hundreds of pods out there, or something. Shouldn't the heroes be worried about all of those pods and trying to keep them from causing Doomsday? No? I guess they were vanished by the Power Stone from a distance, too. Tails says that they need to find out more about Naugus since information is their problem. And it's sweet that after he's stared at for making a good suggestion, Sally agrees with him, and she even lets Tails come on the 5-man mission. Why is it 5-man? Wouldn't Sonic be all they'd need? If they want a spy, he can go to Robotropolis, spy on Naugus, and come back really quickly on his own. Other people would just slow him down and risk getting kidnapped. I hope Tails gets to be competent in this comic, because while he's bright and cheery, innocent kid personality is exactly what Tails should be, he'll still annoy me if he's not really competent like he should be. Sally says that Bunny and Antoine should come too. Why Antoine? And she doesn't explain. And Rotor will stay here with Chuck. Well, why him and not Antoine? Sonic says that once they get a new ring, they'll be good to go, and Sally's really worried about something bad happening to Tails. Is this foreshadowing? Because it's mentioned a lot on one page. Sally says in Robotropolis that they'll split into teams. See what Snively's done with the city that looks exactly the same to me, so I'm not sure why they're bothering. And rendezvous outside the Citadel in 90 minutes. She has the good sense to have Bunny come along with her for a bodyguard. And she says the two teams will go to the west and east sides respectively. Sonic says the city's fixed up quick, and he arbitrarily insists that Ixis couldn't have possibly been able to fix up the city, even though he's magical enough to teleport and brainwash people and create a portal to another dimension. I mean, I guess he's thinking the city would be all crystal and ice if he fixed it up, but he's been shown no limits to his powers. At least he justifies that he heard Ixis saying he wasn't as powerful outside of the void. Tails flies up saying that he spotted something and lifts Sonic up. They see a large machine they never saw before and startle Antoine when they come back, with Tails being tired from carrying Sonic for just a few seconds because video games. When, in the context of the story, I'd expect him to have more stamina than that, little kid or not. I mean, Tails carried Amy from the egg carrier all the way to the ground in SA1. Ixis says that he learned about the Chaos Emeralds when researching the Void. You mean after you went inside it, after creating it? Does that mean Ixis created the emeralds by accident? Wait, how can he create emeralds more powerful than himself, without getting huge access of magic first? Most of what he found about the emeralds came from the myths of ancient cultures. Wait, that completely contradicts what he just said about him learning about the emeralds when researching the void that he created, so he shouldn't really need to research it in the first place. That wasn't thought through. And the emeralds are scattered around the planet, and fascinatingly are physical manifestations of water, fire, wind, rock, force, light, and darkness that have been reality when gathered together. Thank you! Giving each emerald an established specific power to it is exactly what the Chaos Emeralds needed from the start. This kind of thing with balance was why I preferred the frog-given magical stones of one issue in the Archie comic to the Chaos Emeralds, rather than emeralds with undefined powers being taken advantage of for that to rewrite the entire multiverse. So Ixis didn't create the emeralds, which would have been far simpler, giving them a proper origin right from the start. Instead, they're on the planet all along with no explanation. And it's just that they weren't found out about Robotnik because they're mentioned only in obscure ancient texts. So they had to have been sealed away to prevent them from being abused by bad guys, because otherwise they would already be world famous, constantly being used by governments. Snively says that even if the emeralds aren't real, they could find other uses for their new scanning apparatus, since if it can pick up sources of energy like that of emeralds, it could also track rings. So they would find the Lake of Rings. Ix's lampshades that he has no reason not to just let him use his magic to track them instead. I guess Snively just really likes inventing, and he wants to make sure he has an invention ready in case Ixis ditches him so he can still use it as a scanner. Snively, I guess because he's arrogant, arbitrarily insists that his apparatus will be more reliable than a silly spell, and he wants to make a portable version of it. I always really hate it when, magic versus technology. The scientist hates magic instead of being really fascinated by it and wanting to learn everything about it, like an actual physicist would want to do with magic. And the wizards hate technology for no real reason at all, just because they have magic, when magic can power technology. It doesn't make any sense. It just feels kind of like meta logic. It's not like Ixis was grown up in a town where there's no technology and they hate technology and it's all ancient traditions, right? I mean, that would make a lot of sense, but it's not like he hates technology purely because Robotnik and he associates it purely with Robotnik. There's no explanation. Like, I guess the only magic user Snively really knows is Ixis and the hedgehog that he hates. But you think, I don't like it. I never liked it. In a case of reality ensues, he says that using that kind of scanner will put a strain on the city's power grid. Then Sonic is spotted on camera, and Snively says to Ixis to take a mech walker team with him just in case, and he'll order a squad to rendezvous with him at the apparatus. He's at least smarter than Robotnik by not physically threatening his lackey, picking him up. But Ixis being a lackey for anyone is very unusual. The heroes almost get blasted by laser, and Sonic runs with Antoine and Tails. I guess the robots have limited fire, and that's why Snively told them to cease fire? He didn't want them wasting ammo on Sonic when he could evade them. It just feels weird, the idea that robots in a sci-fi fantasy universe would have limited ammo. There's never any indication that when they're shooting lasers, they have only a limited amount of them. Sonic calls Tails little bro, saying to follow his lead to the top of the heap. SatAm Sonic and Modern Sonic apparently are both able to wall jump, since that's exactly what he does to get to the top, and Antoine's hugging him in fear afterwards. I hope they're going to make the SatAm characters other than Sally actually interesting and not bland, because so far the only one I'm interested in remotely is Sally. And Antoine is just going to be useless, apparently. He's not going to get any character development to be more useful like I would expect of a fan comic to do. Then Sonic is teleported straight to Ixis. Oh wait, no, it's just that his feet were frozen and Antoine fainted behind him. Well, I guess that would make sense, since if he could teleport people that easily, he would have won already. So Ixis just had a pink light show to show off. Tails surprises Ixis flying into his back to knock him over, and his tails get frozen, sending him falling. After Tails thinks about how he let everyone down, he gets grabbed and saved in mid-fall by someone with a cloak who reassures him. Is it just me, or is that cloak kind of pink, because it's all kind of red looking here? And he's told that the one who saved him was a guardian. Oh, it's Knuckles. I was hoping it was Amy. Good thing we saw the cloaked person before in 2 issues, or he come out of nowhere as a Deus Ex Machina. I was kind of worried that it was an original character. Sonic uses his ring power to save himself from the ice because Antoine throws one at him. Where'd he find that? I thought he didn't have a ring. And I don't understand why a ring would free him from the ice. Anyway, Sonic runs off with Antoine, desperately hoping that Tails will be okay. And what's a great effect here is that his texts all run together with no spaces to show how fast and desperate his thinking is. He yells at Antoine from the stress that they're not mourning yet, and Tails shows up, not even slightly hurt because that would have caused the slightest bit of drama. They hug adorably, and the cloaked guy is with them talking all formally. Ixis flies towards them, and Sonic tells Antoine to call the girls to get them to the rendezvous point. Then we see that it's been 15 minutes and the cloaked guy still hasn't had that talk with Sonic. I guess he really wanted to wait until the girls showed up. At least it's explained that hovercrafts were all over the place as the reason why the girls took so long. The cloaked guy says that he has a sixth sense for magic. He talks all cryptically and gives Sally a scroll so she'd better understand. Is this really Knuckles? He doesn't act like him. Sonic lampshades how uninformative their Q&A with him was as he takes off, and they leave as I wonder why Sally wants to wait until they get to Knothole first to examine the scroll when for all they know they could lose it before then, or it could be destroyed. Then Sonic puts Tails to bed for a change because Sally and Rotor are busy with the scroll. Tails admits that he was scared earlier and says he isn't tough enough to come with them to Robotropolis. And Sonic comforts him and reminds him of how useful he's been this issue, saying that it's inevitable for a freedom fighter to be scared, but what counts is getting past that fear. Wouldn't that logic apply to Antoine? The two of them hug, with their eyelids being the proper color for a change, and they both briefly reflect on how close a call Tails had, showing consequences to it. Then the cloaked guy bows to some statues of other cloaked guys and says to his father that he's been to the surface and his fears have been confirmed. And good, after I clicked on the page we really do get to see who it is under the cloak, so the smiley face that completely took me out of it looking unprofessional had an actual purpose because it kept you from instantly seeing who it was for sure before even reading all of the text. So that's kind of brilliant. Although it was pretty obvious that it was Knuckles from the start anyways because the word Guardian was mentioned. His cloak reminds me of the Order of Magic from Fleetway, so I always assumed that he had magic. Oh yeah, and I guess the Organization 13 guys from Kingdom Hearts too. It's good to see a different design for Knuckles for a change. That's not Boom Knuckles. Then Bunny stares glumly at her reflection in a robotic arm, which there's no way that arm would be shiny enough to be a mirror. So I didn't even know what I was looking at first. Chuck and Bunny are ready to do some experiment, mentioning that the last time they tried it was a failure. Bunny goes into a deroboticizer and screams as there's tons of yellow light, and Chuck says he's getting two different signatures. And Bunny doesn't get injured from this, even though it looks like she's being electrocuted, because that would cause even the slightest bit of drama. While Bunny is deroboticized, what we also see is some other Robo-Bunny who tries to attack Uncle Chuck. That's a fascinating, if really confusing, way for the deroboticizer to screw up. What, did it duplicate Bunny's soul? I love that Robo-Bunny mentions that there's metal wear and tear on weak points on Chuck. It shows thought put into the writing to have such a minor detail like that. I wonder if the story is just another nightmare of Bunnies. I mean, would they have the guts and possible stupidity of permanently robbing Bunny for iconic cyborgism and usefulness that early on so easily? We haven't even seen her do anything with her cyborgness yet in this comic. Bunny ends up defending her friends by attacking the robot a whole bunch with a weapon and defeats her. I don't know if that was supposed to be considered really badass of her since she just got lucky by surprising her with a bunch of attacks. She apologizes for accidentally hitting Chuck, who fortunately forgives her right away. I'm sure there won't be any consequences to him being hurt, like him being in pain for a while and having to get a mechanic done on him. Rotor says they'll have to go back to the city for replacement parts, and out of complete nowhere, Bunny's cyborg limbs magically come back for no reason whatsoever, other than the meta one of, I wanted to have a story like this without permanently robbing her for cyborgism. It made no sense last time for this to happen, and it makes no sense this time. The main story was about Tails saving Sonic from Ixis during a recon mission because a surprise attacks him when Sonic's trapped by ice, and then Knuckles saves him during a recon mission of his own when he's falling to his doom. Knuckles seems to talk to some statues of cloaked people, calling one of them his father. So does the former Guardian turn into a statue when he dies and retires? I hope that's given good justification, because otherwise it's kind of an arbitrary excuse to have him with no parents that could have justified him being born on Angel Island where it's safe from Robotnik. And he was speaking formally, being taken seriously. And he sends Chaos Energy, which is typical of a Master Emerald Guardian. Also, Snively and Ixis want to look for the Chaos Emeralds, which, here's some more brilliant writing. First, the emeralds are all manifestations of the elements of nature, so hopefully that means each one has a set power to it that we'll get to see. And second, the scanner drains energy from the city when it's used. which makes sense rather than every invention of the villains having no limits to its usage like normal. And the second story arbitrarily had funny cyborg limbs grow back again after she briefly fought with a robo bunny that came out of nowhere from the deroboticizer. She didn't really prove herself as capable without her cyborg limbs because she just got lucky and jumped on it surprising with a crowbar or something. Most of the time she wouldn't be so lucky.